Shalom Nashim, welcome back to Kol Elohim. This is Malka Davarya Batya of the Nation of YisraEl in Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you for returning to our second part on our study, Niddah, it is a matter of sanctification. And we're going to turn to our first scripture in Vayikra chapter 15 and starting at verse 18. The woman also with whom man shall lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the evening. Now we're going to look at what the word unclean means in the Hebrew. We're going to turn to Strong's Concordance, and that is Numbers 2930. And this means to be foul, especially in a ceremonial or moral sense, contaminated. Now we're going to look at the same word tameh, which means unclean, with the Hebrew pictographs, and we have the letter tet and the letter mem. Tet is a picture of a basket, which can be used as a container, and a mem is the symbol for water. So we see from the word tameh, looking at these two pictographs, that a person who is tameh is in need of washing, because the basket holds water, and of course the mem is water. So someone who is tameh is someone that is in need of washing. That is someone who is unclean. Now the scripture read that when a man and a woman lie together and the seed of copulation is upon them, that they are to wash themselves and be unclean until the even. And I interject this slide to show us back the first letter for kadosh, which was the kof, which we see the sun on the horizon. And one of the times you will see the sun on the horizon is when the sun is setting. So once that person's washed themselves and the sun sets, they are now no longer tameh. This verse that we've read basically is telling us that when a husband and wife come together and his seed of copulation be upon them, they are both unclean until sunset. And it is his issue that has made them unclean. During this time, they cannot come into the holy place nor touch holy objects. Unlike Judaism, which teaches that the most favorable time to come together is on a Friday night, the Torah teaches that this act actually makes the couple unclean and unable to come into the sanctuary until the following sunset. The writer of Hebrews states that the marriage bed is undefiled, which is correct. The act of a husband and wife coming together is acceptable before the Most High. In other words, it is not a sin. This is why in Hebrew it is said it is undefiled. So I had to ask the Father, why is it that when a husband and wife comes together that they are made tameh? Why are they unclean? And what he showed me was that it is a reminder of our fall. Before the fall, there was no sexual desire. Sexual desire is connected to the flesh. Yah accepts it in a sanctified relationship, but the one-ship that Yah intended to be between Adam and Hawa wasn't to be one with the flesh, but one with the spirit. Just like Yah and his word are one, and neither of them are flesh, but spirit. That's the kind of connection Yah intended us to have. So this makes us tameh because, again, it reminds us of the fall of man. Now we're going to deal with the laws of Niddah when we're dealing with women on their menstruation. And we're going to go to Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, chapter 15, starting at verse 19. And if a woman have an issue, her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever touches her shall be unclean until the evening. And everything that she lay upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sit upon shall be unclean. And whosoever touches her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until the evening. And whosoever touches anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. And if it be on her bed, or on anything whereon she sit, when he touches it, he shall be unclean until the evening. And if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed whereon he lies shall be unclean. We want to take a look at the word put apart in the Hebrew and compare that with the word unclean, which as we remember was the word tameh. So let's go ahead and look at the word put apart. The word for put apart or set apart is number 5079, and it is the word Niddah. It means properly, rejection, by implication, impurity, especially personal, menstruation, or moral idolatry, incest. Now the word Niddah comes from 5074 Niddah, and it is a primitive root which means properly to wave to and fro. Now even though Strong's number 5074 Niddah listed it as a primitive root, truly a primitive root in the Hebrew language is a two-letter parent root. And the two-letter parent root for Niddah is the Nun and the Dalet. If we take a look at the Nun is a symbol of seed or continuity, and the Dalet is the symbol of a door. In ancient days, the tent door was either goat skin or some other kind of animal skin that moved back and forth. So when we put these two letters together, the Nun, which means continue, or the Dalet, which means to move back and forth because of the way that the entrance door of ancient tents were built, we see that it means to continue to move back and forth, hence a back and forth movement such as the shaking of the head. And this makes sense because one of the words that actually in our English word that we get from this is our word nod, which is to nod the head. But in this instance, we're shaking the head in a no, left and right direction as a sign of rejection, which is what the word Niddah means. It means to be rejected or a rejection. So when you're a Niddah, you are totally supposed to be set apart and pretty much rejected from the sanctified group. Now let's go back and look at verse 20 and to see what is tameh, what is unclean. It says, and everything that she lay upon in her separation shall be unclean, and everything also that she sit upon shall be unclean, shall be tameh. So her bed and her seat, whoever comes in contact with these are unclean until sunset after taking a bath. They are not Niddah. They are not set apart or rejected for touching the things that she sit upon or lay upon. They are just ceremonially or ritually unclean until sunset. Now verse 24, let's read that real quick. And 24 says, and if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days. In other words, he has now joined himself into her uncleanness of 7 days. So husbands really should not sleep in the same bed with their wives while she is Niddah. If he has no ceremonial obligations coming up the next day, he may not mind being tameh until sunset. But if he has to perform duties in the sanctuary or simply participate in services or in studies before the following sunset, he should not and cannot sleep in the bed with his menstruous wife. And I must point out that uncleanness is not a sin, it's a state of being. It is what you are at that time.